Hello, pilot. It's been a while. When we left off, Team Effort had just brought down the jamming signal that was blanketing all of Novalesia, and thanks to their efforts, the LSA was making a unified push to force out the Vestan sovereignty. As soon as the jammer went down, communication burst across the Union network. Soldiers requesting reinforcements, calling out actions, relaying information, but after a few moments, the chatter cleared and Team Effort received a message from an unfamiliar voice.
This is Sergeant Callus to Union Command Vessel. My squad has just secured the Hall of Consuls and we have no sign of either principal here. We're checking all the defense shelters in the area to see if they were evacuated to one of them, but so far we've heard nothing.
Suddenly another voice interjects, which would be Rio.
Hello, Team Effort. I've got a signal from the captain's ontological implants. She's moving fast, heading towards what looks to be a port facility. Belay the rendezvous. I've got a dropship inbound for your location. Get on board and follow that signal.
During this travel, the group had a moment to rest and repair their mechs. But this brief moment of respite didn't last as the captain called back that there were hostiles approaching fast. As has become the standard for our group, it seems, I decided to run one last skill challenge, wrapping up all the learnings that we've made. For this skill challenge, 2 fighter jets pulled up behind the dropship and readied to open fire. As we tried and enjoyed before, I ran 3 objectives simultaneously for our party and this time added punishments for failing each step. For this skill challenge, the 3 objectives were: failing to defeat one of the jets would result in everybody taking 3 damage. Failing to defeat both the jets would cause the dropship to crash and everybody would roll on the structure damage table, but not take the actual structure damage. And the final objective was to take preventative measures to ensure that the Sovereignty didn't receive word of their arrival. Failure to do this would result in the enemy mechs being able to deploy up to 5 spaces outside of the deployment zone. After some deliberation, the party split themselves as Jackalope and Partisan dealing with Jet 1, Archangel, Sawbones and Aramis dealing with Jet 2, and Mother dealing with the communications. We started with Mother, and she began to hack the jets by rapidly and repeatedly randomizing their radio frequencies. She rolled a 21 and prevented the pilots from being able to share any usable updates with their allies. Step 1 had been a great success. For the first jet, Sawbones wanted to use Take Control to utilize her winch to essentially grab and hold the jet in place. Archangel kept it simple and decided to use the Take Someone Out trigger. He had a massive cannon, he might as well use it. I did offer the option to leave the cannon unloaded at the start of the next fight and in exchange gain an accuracy on this roll, which he agreed to. Aramis wanted to use her gravity manipulation tech to join Sawbones in keeping the jet in place, but should Archangel miss his shot, she then wanted to try and spin it out of control. Their rolls resulted in a 10, a 14, and a 3. This was a success, and the group worked together to hold the jet steady, and Archangel lined up his perfect shot, knocking the jet out of the sky. As for the final jet, Partisan wanted to use the blow something up trigger, so he steadied himself and fired his howitzer at the jet. He took the same deal as Archangel, leaving his cannon unloaded at the start of the next fight, for a bonus here. As for Jackalope, he wanted to leap from the dropship, utilize his flight system, and then get closer to the jet to ensure he could defeat it. Due to the vast speed difference between the dropship and the jet and Jackalope's flight speed, I offered him a deal too. He could attempt this, gaining 2 accuracy on his roll, but reducing his current stress by 1. He took the deal. They rolled an 11 and a 9. This meant that as Jackalope leapt from the dropship, it took all his energy to get back in, and with a fluke shot, Partisan barely managed to clip the jet and take it down. Regardless, that meant that all 3 challenges had been overcome and the party arrived on the scene moments later, undisturbed. I didn't provide any rewards for beating this skill challenge, as I'd realized by this point that I'd way overdone it with the reserves, so I had to run this mission as being more focused on preventing debuffs than gaining additional power. This is the last skill challenge that I ran during Solstice Rain, so let's talk about them. Despite the changes I ended up implementing, I actually did enjoy the skill challenges as written in Lancer. I don't think they have any inherent flaws outside of maybe the low-level randomness and luck. However, for a group of 6, having all players engage with each challenge resulted in people running out of ideas and them taking a long time to complete. Solving those 2 issues was my main intent with the changes I made, so I'd probably recommend my approach as an alt rule for larger groups. They do have some fun factors that can benefit any group size though. I really like the decision making that comes from hearing the drawbacks of failure and then having to choose where your pilot would focus their efforts. Are you playing a mech that suffers badly from heat buildup? Well, if one of the drawbacks means you start the next combat with some heat, you'll want to prioritize preventing that drawback and put more people on that one. If you're halfway through a mission and you only have 2 structure left, you might have no choice but to go all in on preventing a challenge that punishes failure with damage. You can also create counter incentives through rewards. So far, I've used information as the primary reward for beating the skill challenge as a whole, but you could absolutely give each challenge its own reward and then use that to make decision-making more intense. Does the party put more people on the challenge with the really nasty drawback but mild reward, or the challenge that seems low risk but the rewards are a fresh pile of repairs or high damage ammo? That will create some really interesting conversations. Another benefit of this system is that it's really adaptable. I think the reason the base skill challenge uses 3 threats is to give it that 2 out of 3 win condition. But with simultaneous threats, you can have as many or as few as you want. If you have a party of 4, you could absolutely present them with 4 threats, some of them with lower stakes drawbacks. Do they split it to 1 pilot per threat, or do they decide that one of those drawbacks is an acceptable loss to guarantee the other threat is overcome? This is especially powerful in high importance story missions. Let's say the party want to rescue a hostage and they've finally found them. Your party has 4 pilots, so you present them with 4 simultaneous skill challenges. Challenge 1, rescue the hostage. Drawback, failure to rescue them means the hostage is killed. Reward, the hostage is rescued, which is a big plot boon. Challenge 2, the enemy have placed explosives throughout the building. Drawback, failure to disarm the bombs means the entire party takes 1 structure damage. Reward, you manage to keep one of the bombs armed but on a stalled timer, and you gain an additional use of a grenade. Challenge 3, there are enemy patrols in the building. Drawback, failure to deal with them results in the alarm sounding and the next combat will gain additional reinforcements. Reward, you gain access to their comms and you know exactly which NPC mechs will be in the next fight. And challenge 4, there's a locked mech hangar. Drawback, none. Reward, you each gain access to a License 1 weapon from a frame license you don't currently own. In a setup like this, you can see how different parties would prioritize differently. Some groups might be all about the plot. They won't risk a bad roll getting the hostage killed and send 3 pilots to get the hostage and 1 to clear the explosives. But a group that loves combat, maybe they send 1 pilot to the hostage, 1 pilot to the enemy patrols, and 2 to the mech hangar. If you take just one thing from these campaign diaries, I think it should be this. But, speaking of combat lovers, I won't keep you waiting any longer. Let's talk about Leviathan. The dropship landed and team effort piled out. They could see across the dockyard that the submarine was prepping to launch and stood guarded by several sovereign mechs. Captain Faris and Ambassador Banerjee were in there. This combat was a gauntlet sitrep. That means they need to get inside the objective zone and outnumber the enemies by the end of the 8th round. This puts the pressure on the players to be the ones to move up and forces their hand a bit. The enemy mechs included an elite barricade, a hornet, a veteran pyro, a scourer, a commander scout, a sniper, 2 grunt assaults, and 2 grunt sentinels. They needed to be split into starting enemies and reserves though, so I started with just the barricade, sniper, scout, and 1 of each type of grunt. The rest would all enter as reserves later. Team effort had a couple of reserves to resolve, so they used their free scans on the sniper and the scout. And then we began. Partisan kicked off the fight by activating his core activation. He rushed along the left side of the docks with a move, a boost, and a free boost. I countered with the barricade, moving it to the left ramp and deploying its Hunger Pursuit limpets. This covers a size 4 area with tiny drones that act as difficult terrain and can potentially slow enemies. I wanted to spend as much time as I could with the barricade setting up these various defensive measures. It then started heading to the right ramp. Archangel began moving down the center, using the shipping containers to stay out of line of sight. The scout began its quick march protocol and allowed the barricade to boost further to the right. It then moved to the sniper and passed its invisibility to them, and then moved back again. Jackalope began moving up, moving and boosting along the left side, following Partisan's lead. The barricade as an elite gets 2 activations around, so it went again, moving to reach the ramp and then bolstering the assault grunt. Aramis hurried to her allies, moving and boosting into cover. The sniper moved towards the front of the submarine, and it put its sniper's mark on Jackalope as he was the biggest target and the hardest to bring down. Sniper's mark is a full action, but it means that shots against the target deal 1 structure damage instead of the usual 10 kinetic damage, useful against those with armor. Sawbones followed after Archangel with a move and a boost towards the center. The Grunt Assault couldn't currently get anyone in range or line of sight, so it simply moved forwards. Mother wrapped up our heroes with a move and a boost to join those on the left, and then bolstered Jackalope. Lastly, the Grunt Sentinel moved down the ramp to the right side and entered Eye of Midnight to prepare for anyone trying to push the right side ramp. As was to be expected, this first round was almost entirely moving. By making the players need to rush the objective zone, it gave me the time to set up some defenses while they needed to spend their actions moving. It was interesting to see the directions they headed though, with 4 of the squad rushing the left ramp while Archangel and Sawbones moved towards the front of the submarine. I wonder if they plan on attacking from the cover of the crates or trying to access the ship via jumping? So far, not a single shot has been fired. Let's see if things escalate during the second round. Jackalope was very scared of the sniper's mark and went first. He tried to move into cover, but the sniper used its moving shot reaction. Jackalope had to either give up the action or be shot. He chose to give up the action. He then boosted into cover and broke line of sight with the archer, and then he bolstered Partisan. The barricade took its first activation and recharged its Hunger Pursuit limpets. It started with its mobile printer protocol, creating a size 2 chunk of terrain, which blocked the ramp. It then moved back onto the submarine and deployed a Titan snare drone. Archangel used his steady aim protocol, loaded an arcing round, and fired at the sniper. The shot hit through the invisibility, and the first bit of damage was dealt this battle. The scout activated its quick march protocol again, helping the barricade stay mobile, and then moved towards the front of the sub. It then used orbital strike, placing a target zone over Aramis and Mother. This wouldn't trigger until the end of the next round, so I know that tactically it wasn't the best time to use it since it meant that both mechs would get 2 turns to get clear, but I was counting on it recharging before the party got closer, and right now I just wanted to light a fire under their asses and get them moving, within the range of my guns. Aramis used her projected shield protocol on the sniper, making it harder for each to hit the other. She then activated her flight systems, moved, boosted, and initiative boosted into cover. With only 1 target still in line of sight of the sniper, I activated that next. It fired at Mother, offsetting the hard cover with the gun's 2 accuracy, however it did still miss. Having missed its attack, it moved into cover until I got the chance to reload. As some added safety, it used the Shroud charge to create a 3 burst of soft cover. Mother moved closer and hacked the scout with a hack/slash. This prevents any form of tech attack until the mech is either shut down or passes a systems check. Luckily for me, the scout doesn't get any special hacks outside of the standard invade, so it shouldn't be too disruptive. She then boosted to join her allies behind the container. The barricade went next and moved a bit closer to the left ramp. It didn't have a lot of options though, so it used drag down on Partisan, causing him to take damage per space moved. Although I think in hindsight, he was out of line of sight. Sawbones moved up and boosted even closer. She mortared the Grunt Assault and the Scout, but missed both. The Assault climbed on top of the terrain and fired at Sawbones, who was in hard cover. This missed, but dealt the reliable damage. It then boosted to climb back down. Partisan finished off the party's turn with a stabilize to reload his howitzer and clear heat. Lastly, the Sentinel did absolutely nothing, just holding down its angle. By the end of round 2, there has still been very little damage. The party are attempting to push up, but their fear of the sniper is making them prioritize moving cover to cover, and that's slowing them down, very much as intended. This next round should have them getting in range, but since 4 of them are all grouped up together on the left side, I decided now would be a great time to bring in reinforcements right next to them. Tactically, this isn't the smartest play, but it is the most fun move, as now the players get to engage in a sudden brawl, and I get to delay them further by forcing them to spend turns fighting these new arrivals, rather than moving towards the objective zone. Having them clustered in a small ingress zone is less fun, but they have to come in together. Taking advantage of this grouped formation, Partisan kicked off round 3 with a howitzer shot. The Hornet did try and counter this with an Umbral Interdiction, which is a pass a system check or the attack misses, but the attack went through. This hit the Scourer, Hornet, and Pyro and crit the Grunt Sentinel, but missed the Grunt Assault. In one attack, the Sentinel and Hornet were both destroyed, and the other mechs badly hurt. Pretty devastating to my chances, but very fun for Partisan, and that's what it's all about really. He then moved closer to the enemies since he is a melee mech. He finished his turn by throwing out a smart grenade at the Scourer and Assault. This damaged the Scourer further and locked onto both. The Scourer was engaged but had no choice but to try and blast Partisan before he died. He did hit though, and then locked onto him. Mother hacked the Pyro with Mirage, making it treat Partisan as invisible. She then crit the Scourer with her Veil Rifle, which simultaneously made Partisan and Aramis gain soft cover. The mount also included a missile rack, which hit 2. Unfortunately, in a cruel twist of fate, the Scourer had 1 hit point and 2 armor, and Mother rolled so low that none of the damage went through. The Pyro used Explosive Jet, knocking Partisan prone and launching itself towards Mother and Aramis. Partisan did overwatch it though for a tiny bit of damage. The Pyro then attacked Mother and Aramis with its flamethrower, dealing 3 burn to just Aramis. At the end of its turn, the Pyro's Firebreak shield created a line between it and those it had just attacked. This doesn't deal damage, but it gives attacks made through the shield a 50% chance to miss. Jackalope moved towards the Pyro and fired his thermal rifle, but it missed. Not happy with that, he overcharged and fired again, missing again. Using his skirmish trait, he shifted a little bit and ended his turn. The Assault Grunt had somehow survived this long, so I tried to get some use out of it. It locked onto Partisan, fired at him, missed but dealt reliable damage, and then moved towards the submarine. Sawbones climbed onto the shipping containers using a winch. She fired a mortar that hit both the Scout and Assault Grunt, killing the Assault and halving the Scout's health. She then boosted and dropped into a small hole next to the containers. The Sniper spent its turn stabilizing so that it could reload its weapon. Archangel loaded another arcing round and fired at the Scout. This was a crit, which with a XC VR battle rifle means it gets to lock on too. The damage took the Scout past its structure damage, and it rolled an impair. The Scout moved towards the Sniper and threw up a cloaking field, making all enemies inside invisible, but it does immobilize the Scout. Aramis used her projected shield protocol against the Pyro. She moved towards the submarine and stabilized to cool heat and remove burn. She then overcharged and hit the Scourer with her magnetic cannon. It resisted the damage, but it was pulled closer. The barricade began moving down the ramp with moves and boosts. It then immediately activated again and used its protocol to print some additional terrain blockades. It then moved to the bottom of the ramp and placed another area of limpets. The Sentinel realized that nobody was coming down this right path, so it dropped Eye of Midnight and moved towards the objective zone. It's the end of round 3 and we've seen some kills. The reinforcements have predictably been pretty messed up, but they did succeed in delaying the party a lot. Only Archangel and Sawbones managed to not fall for the bait. We are approaching halfway through this mission. If I can keep them busy for another few rounds, they might end up lacking the movement to reach the objective zone in time. We'll see. Partisan kicked off round 4 by barraging the Scourer from prone. This crit and killed it. His second attack used his War Pike to target the Pyro, but it did miss. He used his movement to stand up, and his free action to boost to chase the Assault. The Assault activated and barraged Partisan with his knife and assault rifle. Both missed. Jackalope barraged the Pyro, starting with his rocket-propelled grenade launcher, which did hit but was fully blocked by its armor. He then used his thermal rifle, which has armor piercing and dealt structure damage, and a glancing blow. Jackalope then moved towards the submarine. The Sniper climbed onto the terrain and shot her Sawbones in her hardcover. It hit and dealt structure damage. Luckily, she was saved by her custom paint job. The Sniper then climbed down. Sawbones stabilized, healing and reloading her weapons. The Pyro activated and recharged its explosive jet. The Pyro is very slow, so it explosive jetted into a position where it could use its flamethrower on Mother and Aramis again, and it did so. Mother avoided the flames, but Aramis began burning again. A new firewall appeared, and its turn ended. Aramis used Ferrous Lash to try and pull the Pyro past its fire shield, but it saved against the effect. She tried to magnetic cannon it, but the firewalls 50-50 procced, and the attack that would have hit became a miss. She rolled her engineering check at the end of her turn and cleared the burn. The barricade recharged its mobile printer again, so built another piece of terrain and moved back onto the sub. Archangel moved and boosted to climb to the top of the containers and fired at the Scout. The invisibility made it miss though. He then used his initiative boost to jump into the water at the bottom of the 3 high submarine. He then overcharged, climbed 2, fingers gripping the edge of the submarine. The scout fired at Archangel with its marker rifle, locking on and shredding him, and then bolstered the sniper. Mother moved and hacked the pyro with a balance control lockout, dragging it through its own fire shield and making it unprotected, and then she locked on. The barricade continued making its way onto the submarine, ready to defend against the incoming pilots. That was the end of round 4. Mechs are dying and Team Effort have avoided taking any structure damage, but it has come close. We're now halfway through the time limit, and they're cleaning the mechs up pretty nicely and preparing to siege the submarine. If I pull the sniper and scout back, I'd have 4.25 points. But the players have plenty of time to knock those numbers down. We'll have to wait and see how aggressively they push. Archangel kicked off round 5 by sliding a rolling grenade over to the scout and sniper. After their saves, the sniper took half damage and the scout took full. Both survived, but the scout was now on 1 hit point. Archangel overcharged and did it again, and this time killed the scout and dropped the invisibility field. The sniper survived on 1 hit point. He then climbed onto the submarine, fired at the sniper, and missed. Since the sniper was now in a vulnerable position, I activated that next. It fired its super heavy rifle into Archangel, critting, but NPCs typically can't crit, and dealt 10 damage, leaving him on 1 hit point too. It then moved back into the objective zone. Partisan crit the assault, destroying it, and then moved and free boosted into melee with the pyro. He then threw a smart grenade at the pyro, dealing a little bit of damage. The pyro used a full action to explosive vent, hoping to blast Partisan for 6 damage, but he passed his save. It then stood up. Aramis moved and fired her magnetic cannon at the pyro, critting. The pyro failed its hull save and was dragged towards Aramis, also becoming affected by her Exemplar's mark. She finished the barrage with a melee attack, which also crit, leaving it on 1 hit point. She overcharged, gaining 4 heat, and then missed her attack. Tragic. The barricade moved to give the sniper hard cover and then fired at Archangel with his gravitational lance. This dealt structure damage to Archangel and he lost his Jericho deployable cover. It finished its turn by hacking Archangel and applying drag down. Mother moved and shot the pyro with her Veil rifle. She dealt 4 damage, which, after armor, was exactly what they needed, and the pyro was destroyed. This also gave Aramis soft cover. Mother then boosted towards the submarine. The Sentinel moved and boosted towards Archangel and blasted him with its shotgun. Jackalope stabilized to cool his mech and reload his weapons. The barricade fired at Archangel, missing and then deploying some more Hunger Pursuit limpets. Sawbones finished up the round by firing her mortar at the Sentinel, killing it, and then moved up to the edge of the water and set up a winch to act as a zipline onto the submarine. By the end of round 5, I only had 2 mechs left. The party had taken some structure damage, but it's looking very much like the party will be winning by elimination at this stage. What I can do is try and put as much damage onto the players as possible to increase the challenge of the final combat. Having 6 players gives them such an advantage on a Sipret like this, especially when I refuse to add additional enemy mechs because they would just make the rounds even longer. But they did do a great job of cleaning up the enemies, so I am proud of them. The sniper began round 6, and since its shroud charge had recharged, it dropped that to give soft cover to the barrage and itself. Its weapon wasn't reloaded though, so that's all it could do. Archangel began his assault on the barricade, first activating his steady aim protocol and then locking on, and then applying a shock ammo. The shot hit the barricade, dealing 4 damage, but more importantly, the shock ammo caused 1 armor-piercing damage to adjacent characters, killing the sniper. This left just the barricade. It fired its gravitational lance at Archangel, which hit, but then failed to hack him to drag down. Mother hurried towards the winch with a move and a boost. The barricade fired at Archangel again, this time missing his weapon attack and his hack. Jackalope moved and boosted towards the submarine, using flight to bypass the terrain. Partisan moved, boosted and free boosted towards the sub. Aramis stabilized to cool off her mech and moved towards the sub. Lastly, Sawbones moved up the winch and fired at the barricade. She fired her heavy machine gun, which hit and dealt structure damage. This destroyed the barricade's only weapon. It was now the end of round 6, and all I had left was a single barricade with no weapon. They did establish communication with him and try to force an early surrender, but some bad rolls and the knowledge that the submarine was about to depart resulted in him wanting to fight to the end. That being said, I think it's safe to say that Team Effort has won this one. The barricade kicked off the round by rushing Archangel with a move and a boost and trying to ram him. This failed. Partisan ascended the winch and barraged. He crit, and hit, and the barricade is resistant and survived. The barricade tried to ram Archangel again, and this time succeeded. Archangel was thrown back down into the water. He then hacked Partisan with a drag down. Sawbones then finished off the barricade with a spray of a heavy machine gun. Without any time to relax, alarms began ringing out across the docks, signaling the imminent departure of the submarine. They needed to get inside, rescue the hostages before it left. So, as Team Effort rushed towards the open hatch, we'll end this campaign diary there. Team Effort did a great job with this combat. While they did fall for my little distraction ambush, Archangel and Sawbones managed to stay on task. I would definitely give MVP status to Archangel for this combat, but everybody did really well. I think 8 rounds is actually too long for this sit rep. I ran the numbers, and if it had been around 6 rounds, they would have been forced to make some difficult choices around round 4 on whether they want to push the objective zone or keep fighting. Having 8 rounds of time let them freely fight rather than care about the objective zone. I think this sit rep really shows the difficulty reduction by having 6 players. When they already outnumber the enemies, and they're significantly harder to bring down than an NPC mech, it makes some of the area control objectives very much in their favor. And adding additional mechs not only makes the combats harder, but it also increases how long each round takes. I'm not sure there's a solution to this. Maybe limiting the party to 5 is just better for this system. Thank you so much for watching. Next time, Team Effort will be performing the long-awaited hostage rescue mission and the final combat of Solstice Rain. Good luck to them. If you enjoyed this video, then please consider liking and subscribing. We will be playing Winter Scar 2, so stay tuned for that. That's all for today. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.